Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. How many times have we discussed industry and academic relationships, partnerships, and we do it over and over and over again? So what can we do today that's different? That's what I'm going to leave you with, and I'm going to bring up our keynote, who is Mr. Eric Jordan, co-president of the Premier's Technology Council, co-founder of Pure Edge, an award-winning leader in e-commerce, former researcher at the University of Victoria, recognized by the federal government as an internet pioneer. I'm recognized for other things, but it's about border crossing. He served on the Vancouver Island Advanced Technology Board, the BC Technology Industrial Association Board, the BC Cancer Foundation's Vancouver Island Advisory Board, and you're past chairman of ACE Tech Vancouver Island Advisory Board.
Okay, well, I think it's exciting to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to chat about really this important topic around how do you create better linkages between universities and the research that's going on in those institutions and industry, sort of near and dear to my heart. And before we go there, what I thought would be useful was to sort of give you a bit of a background on the PTC, the Premier's Technology Council. In terms of the PTC, we are essentially a high-level advisory body providing policy advice directly to the Premier. And really the intent of that advice is so we can build a stronger knowledge-based society in British Columbia, not just sort of build a stronger tech community, which is where I come from, and other people, obviously, many people in this room come from, but also a broader sort of knowledge-based society in British Columbia. What we do is we provide advice to the Premier on really anything to do with technology, so it's a very broad mandate. We kind of chop that up into sort of three big buckets. So the first bucket is how do we grow and strengthen our technology sector here in British Columbia to help diversify the economic base that we have in BC. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is how do we use technology to improve the efficiencies within government to drive, to have better government services using technology. And then the third bucket is technology is a core part of infrastructure, so that when government is planning infrastructure projects, they're thinking around technology, and in particular around communications. And so if you think about kind of the second bucket, when you're delivering e-healthcare and e-learning and technology in the classroom, that doesn't really work so well if you don't actually have decent communication network and infrastructure to get you onto the net and actually use those services. So the core of what we do is reports. So we don't actually do things. I see Dean there with BCIC, they do things, and Mitacs does things. We just produce reports and core recommendations. We typically do 2 a year. We've done, I guess, 12 since 2001 when the PTC started. 198 recommendations. The vast majority of those recommendations have actually happened. They're in process. One of the benefits of having a Premier as the co-chair and working with the Premier on all that. So that's kind of what we do. In terms of membership to the PTC, so 20, 25 kind of people who are primarily from the tech sector, not all from the tech sector, who are there to sort of help out. A lot of them, tech entrepreneurs, sold companies, invest in companies, build more companies, that kind of person. So in terms of what I thought I'd talk about, was kind of looking at sort of the broad, there's 8 themes, that are kind of the broad themes that the PTC sees when we're looking at developing policy, not just for supporting this particular sector and sort of the importance of this sector, but also supporting all the sectors in this broader goal of building a knowledge-based society. And some of the aspects, I think, of that become good sort of people kind of framing components for the discussion today. And some other aspects, I think, lead to direct areas of opportunity where there can be collaboration between industry and research institutions around looking at particular areas that really are of strategic importance to the Premier and sort of how we see strategy around this knowledge-based society. So with that kind of the 8 themes, I'll tell you them and walk through them in a little bit more detail. So the first theme is around people and really sort of education and immigration around people. Second theme is around research and commercialization. The third theme is infrastructure for a knowledge-based society. Fourth theme is technology and government services. Fifth theme is business environment, really calling on taxation, regulation, and capital. The sixth theme is energy and the environment. The seventh theme is building on our strengths, sectoral strengths, traditional sectoral strengths, as well as emerging strengths in technology. And then the eighth theme is exports, and in particular looking at our relationship, our geographic relationship to Asia and to the States. So the first theme around people, education, immigration. The core idea here is that it's really about getting people with the right sets of skills. That's what we're really looking for. And we obviously have opportunities to sort of improve on that. And thinking about kind of opportunities here, obviously having tight integration between the educational institutions, the research that's going on, as well as industry will help ensure that we're delivering skill sets that are actually needed by industry and research that can be applicable into things that industry is needing. So having that tight integration in terms of curriculum, in terms of a whole variety of things, like I said in the panel, we were talking about that. So that tight integration is important. And also, something that we're seeing kind of on a broad level is that if you look at K-12 education in British Columbia, our students do quite well in math and science, and by actually age 15, they're sort of ranked in the top 5 of the OECD countries. So we're doing well, but by the time the same students are graduating from high school, their interest in math and science has dropped off, they're not taking the courses, and so that we've lost a lot of momentum that we actually have built up. It's been lost by the time that they're graduating, and so they're then not moving on in terms of doing math and science at a university level or a college level in terms of their education. And certainly when I kind of think about my own kids and engaging in math and science, I'm thinking nothing better than video games. Saying, see these games you play? These are tied to math and science. So, so that's I think a great opportunity. For the second theme of research and commercialization, the core idea here is how do we improve the essentially the return on investment that we as a society get out of the research and development dollars that we spend. There's a couple of aspects to that. One is more effectively translating commercialization. I mean, it's hard to commercialize ideas, and I started a company at a university, and it's a hard path to do, and I know it's a difficult thing to do. The difficult thing to do well, can we do better than we're doing now? Some ideas that have sort of been talked about as sort of concepts is, can you take some of the concepts that a traditional UIO might have around sort of helping to protect the liability and the rights of the university, the professors, and the students, and ensuring those are looked after appropriately, while at the same time separating that from a sort of more traditional business development function and looking for opportunities and establishing relationships. And is there some model there that can be helpful moving forward, so just as ideas. Another area in that space is that when we look at research and development spending, it's split between public sector spending and private sector spending, and private sector spending is 15 times more likely to actually translate into the resulting product. So if the private sector spends money on R&D, much more likely that they'll actually have a product. Right now in Canada and BC, we're about 60-40, so about 60% public and 40% private. So if we can change that balance, we'll have a much greater return on investment for those R&D dollars that we spend. So another side of that, R&D. And then industrial design, which is an area that's sort of moving into sort of prominence here, is sort of an important area for kind of the sustaining competitive advantage around products. So another area for research and commercialization. The third theme, which is infrastructure for knowledge-based society, as I said, is really around communication. We've got 92% connectivity broadband across BC right now, which is good. Puts us as one of the most connected jurisdictions in North America, but is not actually 100% obviously. So moving towards that, both in terms of the reach as well as the capacity building around that. Technology and government services is an interesting one. If you're managing government right now, you've got about 30,000 employees. By 2015, roughly a third of those people, about 10,000 of those employees, are moving out of the workforce as baby boomers retire. You look around at the demographics, and there just aren't enough people to hire to fill all those 10,000 spots. At the same time, everyone here, all of us as citizens, are expecting the government's going to do the same thing in 2015 as it's doing now. So the demand for services is at the very least staying the same. But they're going to have to deliver those services on really 20,000 people instead of 30. And so right now the government's actively engaging and looking at how do we transform how we're delivering services in a way that can be far more effective, essentially using technology as a core driver for that. So they're looking at things like Web 2.0 technologies and the whole notion of economics, applying to government as this thing, Gov 2.0, and it seems sort of a natural fit kind of to the people in this room is, how can you make people process, how can you make knowledge workers process information more efficiently? Video games are incredibly effective at processing large amounts of information very, very quickly. How can you do that to knowledge workers?